Welcome to this edition of Policing with Pride. I'm Michael Severe. This week we're going to be talking to Officer Frank Matyja as we go along on a special enforcement for click it or ticket. We appreciate you letting us ride along with it. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
You have a unique story, starting off with the water department for the city and before becoming a police officer. How did that all come about? How did it start off at the water department?
When I was younger, my grandfather always told me if you can get a job with the city, take the job with the city. So at the time I was working flat work and I wanted to be a police officer, and the job for the city came open, so I thought that was a good en route to meet some people that could guide me on my way. So I got hired with the water department. Rich Heinrich, he recently retired, took a chance on me with no experience, and worked in the water department for 5 years. And while I was at the water department, I finished my associate's degree, which is a requirement to be a police officer. And once I finished that degree, I started to test again for the police department, and my name got drawn on the list, and Glenn Luce took a chance on me, and here I am.
Always wanted to be a police officer?
I wanted to be a police officer. I can remember my first thought of being a police officer was when Officer Wilson for OPD got killed in line of duty. And I can remember having a conversation with my mom. I think I was maybe 7 or 8. I'm like, I want to be a police officer. I want to make a difference. And I can remember my mom saying, "No, you're not going to do that. It's too dangerous." So I kind of pushed it back, and then I got a little older. I have 2 friends that worked for Papillion, and getting out of high school, I started thinking to myself, that's where I want to end up, is police officer. So just kept working towards that goal. Took kind of a roundabout trip to get there, but I got there.
You have a unique position now as a school resource officer. What's that been like, working in the schools? What school are you working at?
So I'm at Liberty Middle School. I just started this last month. It's been a quick transition for me from 8, 9 years of working night shift to getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning now and seeing the sun. So
has your body adjusted?
No, it hasn't. I still want to be up at night, and I want to be asleep during the day. So it's a benefit to the school because I'm constantly moving around in the school, to the point where it's probably makes the staff nauseated watching me walk by their windows at all times. So.
How important is it to you to develop that relationship, even though it's only been a short time, with those students?
It's very important. Originally, when I was approached about interviewing for the SRO position, the request was for North High School, so Papio North, and I had a good conversation with Lieutenant Goley about I wanted to be in the middle school setting, because I've always had this thought that in the middle school setting, the kids are younger, they still haven't got that, they're still impressionable, and I want to give that positive outlook that, I'm kind of a big, loud guy, and kind of probably what you would picture a police officer. I don't know. I think when people picture police officer, they think big, loud, rough guy, and I wanted to kind of flip that and build a relationship with these 7th and 8th graders. To this day, when I'm working the road, I'll run into 30, 40-year-old adults, and they'll ask me if I know Officer Foster, Officer Tackett, or SROs, and they'll be like, they were my DARE officer when I was in 4th or 5th grade. And I want to leave that kind of impression on the community that I work in. So
obviously, recently we had a school shooting in Texas. There's obviously been a number of them that have happened over the years. As someone who's working in the school, what's your feeling when you see something like that happen?
Well, it's terribly sad. It's victims that they never have a chance to live their life, and part of my role as the SRO is to protect the students. To be completely honest, because of my schedule, I was asleep when all that had occurred. It was a little bit in the afternoon, I believe, and I just wasn't into the news cycle, and I didn't find out about that until I got to school yesterday, which was the last day of school, and I was doing a little bit of reading about it. I had a 7th grade student come up to me in the hallway and ask me if I had seen what happened. I told him I did, and it was horribly sad. And he asked me if it was going to happen there, and I go, well, not not if I can help it. And that's the whole reason why we have SROs in the schools, is we're that first line of defense. I have background. I'm our lead active threat instructor, so I train officers for single officer response to go into the schools or a business like the Cobalt thing that we just did and deal with threats. So that student coming up to me and asking me that was it's kind of an emotional thing, because he walked away, and I know that he believed me. Like, he's like, oh, the guy's he's just saying something. You can tell that he believed me, which that confidence with only being there for a month it's a big deal.
You mentioned the Cobalt active shooter exercise you guys did. I know they've done it at schools before and other like shopping malls and stuff like that. Why is it important to do those? We see what happened in Texas. We saw what happened in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. Can you kind of walk us through why it's important to do those exercises?
Well, because one, we always have new officers, so it's important to get them exposed to what's really going to happen. It's important. There's so many different layers of a situation like that, in communication and finding people, and just knowing how. Because I can sit here in this car and think, well, Cobalt's right here. Yeah. This is how I'm going to respond, but it's the perfect world. That's with no traffic, and how am I going to get there? What's the response time? How are the people inside the building going to react that are being victims? So it's important for our officers to constantly train to know how people are going to react, how they're going to react themselves, because you'll be amazed that an officer will come out of when we debrief things like that, and they'll go, I was surprised at how high my heart rate got and my respiration was, because I know it's just a training thing, but we try to make it as real as possible to give them that real world experience, so that they know how to respond and how they're going to react.
We're on a special kind of enforcement going on now. We're clicking our ticket and watching for people not wearing their seatbelts, or however you can handle it. It's a secondary offense. Can you kind of walk us through how you handle this when you're part of one of these special assignments?
So, click it or ticket is important. Obviously, it's important to buckle your seatbelts. Nebraska is much like their football team, ranked towards the bottom of people who use. I think we're fourth from the bottom in people who wear seatbelts. 80% is where it is. For reference, the number one state is Hawaii, and they're like 97.5% compliant, and they're also a secondary offense state just like we are. So we can compare that. When I'm driving, I'm looking like, so this gentleman here, he has no seatbelt on. Yeah. But I can't pull him over. It's a secondary offense. It's like cell phones. You see them doing it, and you see if you can make that contact with them to give them the education that, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You need to buckle your seatbelt. But sometimes you just can't make that contact, because it's a secondary offense. So you have to have that primary reason for stop. So whether that's speeding or an improper turn or running a light, no front plate would be another reason. That's a primary reason to stop. You got to look for something like that, and then you can draw into the contact to hit on the seatbelt.
When you have that conversation, that contact with them, what do they usually give for an excuse of not wearing a seatbelt?
You hear everything. I was in a hurry. I forgot. It's uncomfortable. One of my favorites is, well, I don't wear my seatbelt because my second aunt's grandma's dad got in a car accident when he was wearing a seatbelt, and it broke his collarbone. So I don't doubt that maybe they got in an accident and got a broken collarbone while they were wearing a seatbelt, but without that seatbelt, I'm guaranteeing that accident would have been much worse. So that's just not like a real excuse. Getting ejected from your car is much worse. Specifically out here to do traffic enforcement and look for seatbelt. So it's kind of like a benefit it benefits the city, and because I can come out here and just do traffic enforcement. So I just patrol like I would any other day, except I'm not going to be pulled away from doing traffic by a call. Right. I can sit in a couple spots where citizens have complained about speeders complaints, and I can put some real minutes, actually hours, into that area of traffic enforcement. this is a area of concern that the city has, or that we get a lot of complaints about. So it's one of the benefits of the state funding for the grant is that I can do special enforcement right there and make a contact. So it's kind of double duty. For them is that he does what he's doing here, and he's going to turn on Atwood, and then there's a bump out right here to go in the apartment complex, which is ideal for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But he's not a local, so he doesn't know the area.
But there's this, obviously there's a stigma with police at times, but you get to have these contacts, treat them well, and maybe that goes on and they change their opinion of police. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. So it's people have. So there's that whole. It's more important for us to educate the public. I think if you pull up our statistics when we pull people over, less than 50% end up in a citation.
Yeah.
The majority of our contacts end up in a warning because the main thing is educating the public. And the other part of that is while I have one party pulled over, I've got 60, 70 vehicles coming by, slowing down, putting their seatbelts on, correcting poor behavior because they see that we're out and we're being active. So that's important too. And then when we're at the window and I'm talking to the person, they could be having a bad day. I could be having a bad day. I don't like being pulled over. So I understand you're late. I'm making you later, but we're going to have to get through this contact. So you treat people respectful. I always that officer used to tell me, he's like, kind of act like a mirror. If they're being respectful and polite, you're going to give that to them right back. And if they start becoming aggressive towards you, then you got to kind of control that because you don't want to end up. You're not giving tickets for punishment. I mean, in the end, it is a pun. You're getting fined, but you're not out there because you're just blanketly I'm going to write 100 tickets today. We don't have quotas.
Right.
That's not what we do. It's educating the public and keeping them safe.
What does policing with pride mean to you?
I knew you were going to ask that question because I've watched the series.
I ask everybody the question.
And you ask everybody that question.
Yeah.
It's doing the right things when nobody's watching. That's to be honest. I'm in my cruiser. I do this job by myself. A 12-hour day, I'm alone for 11 hours. I can go sit somewhere where I know I might make one or two contacts with the public, or I can go out into a park and make some contacts with some kids, throwing the football around, and being that positive influence that I had when I was younger from my DARE officers back at Gilder Elementary. So to me, it's just taking pride in your work and being honest and putting in your honest day's work, just like everybody else in the public.
The Click It or Ticket Special Enforcement ended up with 106 total contacts, 60 citations issued, 7 of those for not wearing a seatbelt, and 6 DUI arrests. For Policing with Pride, I'm Michael Severe.